Hey there friends, it's Glenn with the almost world famous Cactus Atlas, and on today's episode I'm going to be giving you a tour of the south rim of the Grand Canyon. Along the rim and along the way I'm going to show you some points of historic interest. Our episode begins at site number 43 on the Aspen Loop at Mather Campground, where Slim and I spent last night, and then we're spending one more night before I head home tomorrow on a Friday. And I've got some Cactus Atlas business to do on the way home. So Mr. Grumpy here is kind of upset because this has been an on-foot and up until now an on-foot adventure, and he found out that all the driving we're doing today is on pavement. I'm sorry, buddy, but tomorrow there might be some dirt, but don't expect anything too good. But I did give him a spritz, I gave him some time. We were out doing some Camp View business in some Kaibab National Forest campgrounds, and we found a puddle or two out in the woods. So yes, this is even though Slim and I will probably be sharing our driving to and fro within the park, it's really meant to be a casual episode, a casual exploration of the South Rim. I think I know my starting point, and then from there I don't know how far I'm going to get. But I at least know 2 out of 3 possibilities that we'll look at today, and I'm going to try to just keep it casual. I was going to try to be all official and do a Mary Jane Colter episode, and it's going to very much feature her work and some knowledge around that. But I did do some reading, but I'm not ready to do a full-blown documentary, so it's going to be okay if I don't have a full plan, basically. I did do a Camp View drive-through of this campground, Mather Campground, and let me tell you, it's the biggest one I've done yet. 319 sites, if I'm remembering correctly. Slim and I did it. We filmed every single site in this campground, and I'm very proud of myself for that one, but I still have to edit it, so I shouldn't be patting myself on the back just yet. And now's a fantastic time to plug Camp View, our other YouTube channel, where we really brought the camping niche over there. And here we're trying to make it more, the thing that you like, Slim and I. Sometimes not so much Slim and me, but trying to focus more on history and stuff like that. So, but Camp View, go over there and check it out if you ever want to camp at Mather. And hopefully that drive-through, I show every site. We drive by it, and you get to, get a lot of intel before you book a site here on recreation.gov. It's August though, and I would say mid-August 2024. I am surprised at how empty this place is. I know why people are going to say it's not being utilized right now, and I'm going to disagree with you. You're going to say, well, Glenn, it's hot. It's not fun to camp in the heat. I agree. Oh, I so agree. The high is like 81 here at the South Rim right now in the middle of August. And at night it got down in the 50s easily. I was kind of chilly. I was contemplating having to go get an extra sleeping bag last night. So yeah, you're in the sun, it's going to be a little bit hot, but come on, So more for me is all I'm going to say. Now, on a very serious note though, one very big possibility is people like to hike into the canyon here, and we're on the top of the rim up in these juniper and ponderosa pine forests, but go down into the canyon, and yeah, I think the high is gonna be 101 down there today, which is probably not that bad. It probably could be a lot worse. I was going to make a video called the historic structures of Mary Jane Colter here at the Grand Canyon, and any of the history buffs already know exactly which buildings I'm talking about and where they're located. And I wanted to do a video where I go to the east entrance to see the tower over there, and then the middle section, I think the blue stops on the shuttle line, Grand Canyon Village, there you go. The several of her buildings, starting with the Hopi House. You've got the Lookout Studio, or the 2 ones that I really like, but then obviously there's something that the Bright Angel Lodge, or the renovated one that she did, and I guess her renovations on Bucky O'Neill's cabin, all of that stuff, plus Hermit's Rest, all the way down on the red line. That's the video I really wanted to make, was a mix of her stuff and the different views you get from all of the different perspectives on the canyon. But that is a pretty big undertaking for the amount of time I have left today, and I don't know. So we're gonna do a casual version of that where there are no guarantees how far I get. I cover that list just to get out of the way. There's always gonna be the person out there that has to speak up and say, but you didn't say this one or that one. I'm pretty studied on what she's done here, and I know a lot of the detail, and I'm very impressed with stuff like the fireplace, for example, in Bright Angel Lodge. There's a thing called the history room there, and I really want to see that. And if you really understand how she designed that, boom, like next level stuff. So there's so many things we have to go seek out. So what I think we're gonna do is I'm gonna go to the western side because I do want to try to capture the Desert View campground for Camp View and do a drive-through of that. And then start with her tower on the east entrance and then make our way back towards the village. I'm pretty confident we're gonna get through the village, basically, is what I'm saying. Not so confident I'm gonna have the up and go by the time I'm ready to get on the shuttle to do the red line to go to Hermit's Rest, although it would be a darn shame because there's lots of cool stuff to talk about at the Hermit's Rest also, but we'll see. As Slim and I drive over to our first destination, the Watchtower that she built. It's really cool looking if you haven't seen it in our other videos or anywhere else. Even if you don't know who she is and what she did, impressive on its own. But I'll give you a quick synopsis of who she was, why I think she's very relevant in history, but I think also some of the stuff we'll talk about her architecture and her stylistic choices and stuff, once you understand how she modeled her things and how she integrates them into the landscapes. That's really what I want to get at, and that's what I really admire, is that aesthetic. And I've learned about some of the interior stuff she did too that I didn't know about. There's just so much to talk about with her. And anyway, enough talk. Let's get into Slim and let's hit the road. I guess at the risk of Amy getting really jealous, I do have to make one thing I admit. You know, my short readings and my understanding of Mary Colter, I think I have a new crush. Really dig what she did. And you know, when you start reading about the inputs and the things she did to build this in the context, the time that she did all this, it's somebody to admire and somebody to talk about. Straight ahead is the Shrine of Ages, and to the left of that in the background is a place called the Pioneer Cemetery, which we featured, where the Cole brothers, as well as some of the Verkamps, are buried. And you're driving tour guide here. I should get a job driving one of the shuttles here. I'd be like the best. I'd be the one that everybody requests. Okay, so let's start with Mary's origins. This isn't going to be a detailed history. Amy can supplement what I'm saying with facts, but she was born in the 1800s, this lady. I want to say the 1880s, and I want to say 1881. Now I'm really reading, trying to pull up facts I didn't memorize very well. But you got the facts. Maybe she said, oh, he was right. Anyway, so she was born in the 1880s, and she ends up becoming the head architect for the Fred Harvey Company, a really big corporation, one that got sold in the 1960s. I forget the name of the company in the 1960s, but that eventually became Xanterra, the people running the show here today. So I don't know if it would be incorrect to say that that Fred Harvey Company, that Xanterra is basically that. I don't know. Anyways, that's a side fact here. Let's get back on track. What I was trying to say is that Mary, coming out of the 1800s as a woman, getting the right education to become an architect, interior designer, I would also say, she did all that, which, let's face it, in the 1800s, it's well known it was not a woman's world. So she already has props right there. But then to rise to the levels she did, like working for the Fred Harvey Company and being the head architect on many of the works that we're going to see here in the park, but not just here. She's responsible for other works around the country, other hotels, other things in national parks, and really set a model for how a lot of the national parks design their architecture from there on out. So really amazing for a woman to do that in that time. So yeah, she was said to be a perfectionist, and I think we'll see that in some of the work that we're going to see today. There's just some meticulous thinking and design, and even things that one wouldn't think about, like a fireplace. I can't wait to see. That might be the highlight for what I want to see today, is a friggin' fireplace. But anyway, so she was known to be a perfectionist. The only other things that I really read about her personality, I didn't get into that stuff, was that I read somewhere that she was a chain smoker. I don't know if that's true or not, but why not? That fits with the time, doesn't it? But she also lived to a pretty ripe old age, I want to say, into her 90s, was it? Maybe her 80s, but maybe she had that Keith Richards blood. I don't know, but you could just, with people like that they're operating on a different level. And some of her finest works, I would argue, are here in the Grand Canyon. Multiple of them from probably a very exciting time, maybe the most exciting time in Grand Canyon history, when the railway made its way up here, and you start to see like the upper class and traveling more and coming out to these parts, and buildings like the Altovar, for example. I got canyon views right off to the left, and Desert View is the name of the area that we're heading to.
Turn left.
And I'd say if you're taking the Grand Canyon shuttle around from place to place, this would be like the furthest stop east, I believe. And there should be a really big parking lot. I didn't really consider parking, so historic Watchtower next left. So they even list it there, historic Watchtower, because it's that awesome.
Desert View Road.
I don't know if we're going to catch our first views of the Watchtower from the truck here. I'll just keep rolling. Oh, they have a gas station too, and there's the campground. So all the other stuff that I need to do is right here, it looks like. I forget I do have some camp view business to attend to also. This is kind of how I remember it when I visited. A big parking lot here. Oh, there's plenty of parking. For a second I was like, oh no, did I screw up by coming here at like 1:30 in the afternoon? It's going to be crowded, and there's some crowd here, don't get me wrong, but I would say it's probably not that bad, although it's kind of a small area, so it might be a little crowded. That's all right. It's kind of cool to think that for many that came this way from the Cameron area, maybe they're touring the Four Corners, this might be some people's very first foray into the Grand Canyon. You can kind of see it beyond the juniper and pines over there, but I always like to think that. So for some people, the most magical moment is about to occur at Desert View Grand Canyon National Park. And there's our first kind of really good view of that. It looks like people are actually up in the top, which was closed when we came here last time. You should be able to start seeing the canyon too, and breaks between the trees, but we're admiring that Watchtower for the moment. I think it is called the Watchtower, and it's, as Mary Colter did, she modeled these things after things indigenous to this area, and one of the inspirations for this would have been an ancestral Puebloan style watchtower. I mean, we are at the Grand Canyon, so let's pause on the tower and we'll walk along the rim towards the tower, just like I did last time, in the opposite direction, I think. And just wow, I forgot how the views were from the east here. I would say, now that I'm back again, probably some of the best, because you're looking west into the canyon and you can see, the Colorado River at times, and I know it's kind of in the middle of the day and it's hazy and it's not the best time, but just wow. Just wow. Interesting to think too that when the Cole brothers did that now famous river run in 1911, My understanding is that this wasn't built until the 1930s, one of the latest dating structures of Colter, if not the youngest of them all. So this would not have been here actually when a lot of the other history we talked about was kind of in its prime in the first 30 years, but still. And then you get to see this masterpiece up against this masterpiece, and it's just all work of art. And then you get to see this masterpiece up against this masterpiece, and it's just all work of art. It all just makes more sense to me now, I think, because I do get to see, I've seen this style of architecture time and time again now in all of my travels, so it just makes this more impactful when you know that that was the basis for her design. And there's just something about how she incorporates those materials and those inspirations into her designs, and it makes me think of someone like Frank Lloyd Wright, who's another one that I really have grown a really deep appreciation. I visited some of his works, not on our channel, but just in the past, and I would say like she's like that to me. She's kind of on that level, and what I think people like about Frank Lloyd Wright, I could see they would find the same type of appreciations maybe in Mary's work. It's a very large tower too. I forgot how big it actually is. So let's get a little closer and look at some of the exterior detail. I'm assuming everything we're seeing, like the broken walls and things, are 100% intentional in her design. And if so, she's kind of maybe giving the feeling that it's kind of a partial ruin the way we see things today when we go to visit. But even if you look at the small windows, that's pretty indicative of what you see in the cultures that we study. And even how the wood is kind of inlaid above the windows and things like that, it just fits the part. Here's like a nice cross section of this wall. You can kind of see how there's cement and stuff in it. I couldn't tell you if this has received a lot of renovation or not. Being one of the younger structures, maybe not. But what I can tell you is when you just look up there and look at how each piece fits together like a jigsaw puzzle, like perfectly. You could spend endless hours just studying every inch of this and you see something new. Like, look at this. I love how she did the small rocks like that. Doesn't that remind you guys of something you'd see at Chaco Canyon? So I did a little bit of touch-up reading on the National Park website to get a few more facts about this, and I think I hit the nail on the head. I didn't read it earlier, but she was inspired by actual structures at Hovenweep, Mesa Verde, and even Chaco Canyon. She said that white pattern at the top was something she had seen at Chaco, but indeed, all of those places that this rung a bell. That's where she got the inspiration, but it's not based on one particular building. She said it's just a conglomeration of all of the experience she had witnessing it. She put elements from all of the things she had seen in there. I'm excited that we apparently get to go to the top of this thing. It's spectacular. I'm not sure how this works in here. We're gonna find out. You can even see like designs of petroglyphs or pictographs up there if you look carefully. You know what that looks like? I was at Chaco. Someone pointed out something that looked very much like that a Navajo medicine man embedded into one of the walls to bless the area. And I'm just going off of memory, but is that the same design? And did she see that there also? And did she realize that it wasn't ancestral Puebloan in origin? All right, we are making Making our way up to the top of the tower now. POV style. Maybe I'll go all the way to the top and then yeah, we're not all the way up there. And then we'll come back and study all of this. We're not at the top yet. Oh my gosh. All right, let's continue. If you don't like heights, you're probably not gonna like this. I think that's the top. The artwork in here is amazing. All right, here we go, final push. And then on the way down, we'll admire everything that I kind of sped through. Yes. I thought I was at the top, but I'm not. We still have to keep going up. I'm getting dizzy here. Look at the view out the window. Oh my gosh. Amazing views. But we have to keep pushing. Yeah, these windows look like the large ones we saw. Are these open air? Wow. We made it to the very top. I'm gonna pass out. Look at that view. Oh my goodness. You pretty much get 360-degree views from up here. And telescopes if you like, to peer down into the canyon. For sure, if you don't like heights, this is probably not your thing. But we'll look out this way east. You can see the Colorado River and areas beyond. I even see the Vermilion Cliffs, where we've explored many times. There's another lookout post down there too. So just as advertised, there's not really any art on the top level. The art is out the window. But there was a lot more coming up than I expected. So when we head back down, we're gonna take a look. But I just want to get every view, taking every view that we can. It's worth it. 360 degrees. Now the less interesting view back out towards the parking lot. But you actually can see Flagstaff in the San Francisco Peaks. Not the town of Flagstaff, but Flagstaff area. This is going to be the scarier part, but as we leave the top, you can start to see like really beautiful art. Probably Hopi inspired, ancestral Puebloan inspired art. And that, oh boy. It almost looks like a bunch of kivas stacked one on top of another, doesn't it? And this is a good vantage point to enjoy that artwork up here. And lining almost every surface in here is something that to me looks like the type of petroglyph or pictograph we've seen. Even like Fremont culture inspired, like those trapezoidal figures are usually indicative of the Fremont culture and not the ancestral Puebloans, and that's one of the differentiators I've read about, so I'm guessing it's just inspired by all sorts of stuff around the Southwest. Peek over the side again, and you can see the same pattern repeating down below. Every level's got something, it would seem. This is beautiful. I didn't even look at the ceiling yet. Oh my God. Hey, look, it's the Cactus Atlas symbol. Isn't it? I'll be honest, I am absolutely floored with this experience coming into this thing. It exceeds my, I didn't really have any spoilers really. I just thought we'd go up some stairs and it wouldn't be that interesting. I didn't think it'd be decorated like this and it would feel as adventurous. I mean, I got a little bit of adrenaline going on this thing going up there, but this is amazing. Seems like the designs get more intricate down there. Beautiful pottery at times too, if you keep an eye out. So on this first level, there's a sign that's telling what all this stuff means, and this is a Hopi legend that's depicted on these walls down here called the Snake Legend. So beautiful. It's really cool when you look up now and you realize they painted the ceiling at the top. The color. And there's a snake actually, like a rattlesnake, all around. That ended up being 10 times the adventure I thought it was going to be. All right, so we drove all the way out here and we're now going to head back towards Grand Canyon Village where I need to find parking. Hopefully being later in the afternoon, it's going to be pushing well after, I'd say after 3 o'clock by the time I get back on that side. Hoping I could find parking close. If not, I know where to take a shuttle. But what we're gonna do is go to the Grand Canyon Village, and I think, yeah, Hopi House seems like a good follow-up to that because it's also inspired by, in this case, it's inspired by the Hopi culture. But you'll because the Hopi descended from the folks like the ancestral Puebloans, I think you're going to see a lot of similarities that we've seen in Chaco Canyon and places like that I'm going to point out to you in the construction of that. And then there's a couple other spots that I want to get to, but we have until I think about 5 o'clock and then doors start getting shut. And I need to make sure I can get to the places that shut first. So that's why we're going to make a beeline to the village and not stop anywhere else because that might be pushing it. And this talks about Mary and how when most architects were men, this was Mary Elizabeth Jane Colter. So forgive me, I kept saying Mary Jane Colter, so full name Mary Elizabeth Jane. So anyway, at 36 years old, she built this. And here's kind of what she modeled it after. Actual Hopi Pueblo villages, which even I haven't explored on the Cactus Atlas. When you study the pictures of the old Hopi Pueblos, beautiful ones, you could definitely see how she very accurately portrayed it here. There's only one misrepresentation that's intentional that we'll talk about that you wouldn't find, I think, on a real Pueblo. And we'll wait till we go in, hint, hint, to talk about what that is. Any guesses, though, about what makes this a little different than the real deal? It's a really subtle thing, but before we go in, though, let's circumnavigate or partially circumnavigate this building and look at some of the features of the architecture. Here's a historic plaque to prove that it was built in 1905. So from my readings on the internets, I've read that for the large part, this is very much intact the way she designed it. There have been some restorations on it, and I did read one thing about how she added weathering, a weathered look to some of the stone, and I think they had to wash or renovate something, and I think some of that weathering has now been lost. I presume on the outside of the building, but I'm not really sure what to look for that. But other than that, the only other thing I think that may not be that original is the floor when we go in. I think the original floor is concrete, but now there's a wooden floor in there, and I asked one of the people working in there yesterday, and they said, yeah, that's not original, but when we go in here in a second, I want to point out a few features, and I'll be inside, so I'm not going to talk as loudly, but the ceiling is what I really want to focus on, and I want you to think back. If you saw my Chaco Canyon episodes, and we went into some of the structures that are still preserved that have the wooden ceilings in them, looks strangely familiar to me. I guess the last thing we'll say is, like I said, this was originally built and designed to be a curio shop that would sell Native American arts and crafts, as it still very much does today, over 100 years later, which I think is amazing to just think of that, the longevity of this operation out here. So I think that's cool. But once again, my interpretation of this is that this was the more affluence choice for people with more money, where they would go shopping for their wares. And then, of course, if you weren't as sophisticated and you didn't have money, I think that's what the Verkamp store was for over there that we studied on a different episode. The small guy will say, I've read that they would sell affordable things like postcards and stuff like that. So I kind of think of this as the snooty place. I have yet to visit or knowingly visit. I don't know if I've ever been on the Hopi reservation here in Arizona or the Zuni reservation. I know I've been on the Navajo reservation countless times, the Four Corners area, Monument Valley, all that. So I've never really seen like Hopi or classic Hopi architecture up close, and I really would like to, but I've also read, I read conflicting things. You can go on the reservation and it seems like anybody can go, but it also sounds like it may not be the most welcoming or open culture to letting outsiders come and see stuff like that. So there are a couple structures that would be the most epic thing I would like to go see that are Pueblos. I think they're Hopi Pueblos, but I don't know if there's any hope, no pun intended, of ever getting permission to go see some of the things that I would love to go see. I need to make connections, I think, is the next stage here on the Cactus Atlas. Talk this place up, so I want to go inside. It's air conditioned also. It's going to feel so good, but that we were supposed to talk about one thing, and here's a good example. You can see people walking in the door there. Anybody guess what makes this not authentic? Anyone? So you're looking at it in the frame here somewhere. There's something about this that just ain't right. That I don't blame Mary for her choice. I mean, it makes sense why she did it, 100%. But my understanding is they did not have doors on the sides of any of these structures. We know that to be true with some of the older cultures that we study, like the Hohokam or, Perry Mesa cultures, things like that. They entered in through the roof. And in the front, we'll look at ladders that depict that. But here, yeah, she had to put doorways in. But true to form, I will tell you this, that doorway is not tall, and for a 6'2" gentleman like me, I get the total same vibes that I do at Chaco, trying to bend underneath things. Okay, not quite that extreme, but they got the short door right. But I did want to show you there's a couple of ladders. I think they're probably just decorative that were placed there, but that's what I'm talking about. All right, let's enter the Hopi House. Now that you know a little bit about it, hopefully it's cool. They've got really cool goods in here. Gotta bend down to get in here, though. So So they basically they used a lot of saplings and other various debris to make that ceiling. And when I asked yesterday, has anything been done to that? They don't think it, the people that work here don't think it is. It's not, it's the way it was when she made it. I look up and you'll see when I was saying, does that remind anybody of anything they've seen on our channel before? Sure does to me. But today you just see so many beautiful Native American crafts in here. Like one of the best collections ever. I actually have one of these in a different form that someone gave me as a gift once. I still have that. And I treasure it. You can see there's lots, you got anything you can think of, t-shirts. But the best part I think in here, it's heavy on the Native American wares and stuff, which I really like. Handcrafted goods. I wonder how much these are. Oh, only $6.99. These I love. I'm kind of wanting to start buying these Navajo rugs. Amy would kill me though. She's not like into the Southwest motif like I am. But I think her mother is. These are affordable too, 30 bucks. Usually I'm priced out of some of these things. So I came in the side room to show you something here. I was inquiring about that floor and its authenticity, and it is a later edition. The actual floor, you could see some sections of it exposed in there. It would have been like this connected stone. And you know, I think their best guess is they raised it to make things a little bit more level and comfortable to walk on. And this probably gets pretty dusty also, is what we were thinking. So so that's pretty much the reason why. But you can actually kind of see right there where they laid that right on top of the floor. So I also learned originally this area we're walking through is where they sold things originally. And even though upstairs we can go and see more gift shop, back then that wasn't the case, and it was more of the workshop of the artisans that would work upstairs. And the ceiling continues up here. I'm really amazed at her attention to detail though, and how she nailed it. The ceiling especially. I rightly don't know if I've ever been up here before, and this is kind of dangerous. I love these rugs. I like this one, the navy blue. But you see, they're authentic handmade rugs. So that's why they're so expensive. And they're so beautiful. I wonder how long it takes for them to make one of these. That's actually cool. There's a loom with a, presumably, I don't know, is that how they do it now? But isn't that amazing? That you can create something with an intricate pattern like that, with something like that kind of technology. Hey, if anybody wants to know another gift idea for me for Christmas, somebody spring the money for one of these. I'd take just about any of them. I think they're all fantastic. I'm honestly trying to find one that I do not like, and I can't.
I'm just gonna separately message him and be like, not surprised.
Anyway, we're gonna head back down now, but I wanted to show you guys this. It's an amazing place to shop today, in the same spirit of what they had here yesterday, and amazing architecture. All right, folks, there you have it, the Hopi House. You know, knowing the history of it, knowing the age of these things really adds to the experience. I've been in there more times than I can remember, and I never really considered these things, but I'm talking over the span of much earlier than just the Cactus Atlas career. But knowing the history enriches things so much. I'm so enraptured with her stuff, I totally forgot there's a Grand Canyon, the grandest of all canyons, right here. Right in front of us. And we shouldn't squander any opportunity to catch a view or two, should we? It's starting to become later in the afternoon and you're starting to get the shadows being cast. That really helps add to the depth. Amy and I have been here many times also together, and she's seen it. You know, in the midday when everything's just blown out, it really loses its depth. And sometimes it almost looks like a two-dimensional picture, so the 3D-ness starts to pop. And I would say in the morning it was fantastic. I've been here as late as this morning, in fact, as well as late in the afternoon. That's when you want to ideally view this. Believe it or not, I've met more than one in Arizona, people that were born and raised in Arizona and never left their whole lives, that have never been to the Grand Canyon. They're 3 hours away. And you know what they all say? It seems consistent. Well, I don't know why I want to go see that. It's just a big hole in the ground. That's all I'm gonna say. That's a true story, though. So what we're gonna do is retrace some footsteps that I did this morning. In fact, you know, we visited a couple of the big name things like the Altovar, but for the most part we focused on the small guys, the Verkamps and the Kolbs, and now we're focusing on the corporate side once again. And on that video we walked by a couple things that I pointed out to you that I said we'd try to come back and see, and we're making a beeline for them now. And one would be the Lookout Studio, which I can see on the horizon now, and the other is the Bright Angel Lodge, or the renovated Bright Angel Lodge. And we talk a little bit about that on the other video because there's some overlap in history between, I talk about Bucky O'Neill and his original cabin, the oldest structure remaining from that period here in the Canyon Village, and how Mary Colter had a hand in renovating that cabin and making it part of the Bright Angel complex. So that's probably where we're heading next. Is there's a room in there, probably the thing that closes the earliest. Have plenty of time, but we're gonna really see Mary's perfectionism at work. There's a fireplace that I just have to come check out. Hopefully it's quiet in there and people aren't misbehaving. So we're coming up on the modern location of the Bright Angel Lodge, another Mary Colter creation, and essentially what this is all about, it's a 1930s creation, and what this was mainly about is up the road, the Harvey Company wanted to build more affordable accommodations for a different clientele, a different demographic, I guess. And that's really what they did here, is they wanted to build a rustic hotel that people could afford a little bit better, I would say, than the Altovar and the affluent nature of that. So that's essentially what we're gonna see here. Not one of her oldest, clearly. I probably know the least about this. And like the information I read says, this has changed a lot over the years. So I don't know what's modern, what's original, what's not, but there is a room where this, I believe that's the fireplace that I want to come check out on the other side, on the inside. There's a history room that was closed yesterday, and they have free fudge samples inside. No way. Anyway, so let's go look for some free fudge and history. Oh wow. Here it is. Here's the fireplace that I wanted to show you guys. A really awesome creation if you understand what she did. And I think I actually see a summary of it right over here. So Mary Colter designed this geological fireplace to reflect the natural strata of the Grand Canyon, beginning with the flat river bottom rocks from the Colorado River all the way up to the top, using accurate stones sourced from the canyon, is my understanding. So you can see that polished stone that represents the Colorado River there, and you go through millions of years of geologic time, and I think she tried to accurately represent the stair-step nature of the inside of the canyon. I mean, that's freaking awesome. And the attention of detail to that and the meaning. So I wasn't planning on spending too much time in here. Maybe we'll have to stay here in the future and we'll do a deeper dive on that. But all right, and this should be our final stop on this one today. The Lookout Studio, another historic building of her design. So we get into this a little bit on the other episode, and one thing I heard is that the Frank Harvey Company wasn't a fan of people like the Cole brothers, who have a studio down the way, and people like the Verkamps, and Cole brothers is down this trail a little bit further. But they strategically placed this here and really made a choke point. If you look at it carefully, it's really narrow here, to really try to deter people, or I guess to encourage them to go in here and buy their gifts and spend their money rather than down at the Kolb studio. So kind of a jerk move in a way maybe, but It is what it is. I don't think that had anything to do, would have to think, with Mary's intent. Mary just wanted to build her buildings probably and do her thing. It's probably all the white-collared folks in some office somewhere, the board, coming up with these evil plans. But anyway, the Lookout Studio. So let's break it down a little bit. So this is a 1914 creation. So older than the Lodge, older than the Watchtower, but not as old as the Hopi House. But same idea. You can see it up close. She really fit a lot of stones together. Pretty intricate if you study some of those up there. And, probably uncut, I'm gonna guess. And from native materials that match the actual color of the landscape here. So she really liked to make her buildings blend in. This might be one of the best examples of that, to be honest with you. But basically the function of this thing was to give visitors a safe way to view the canyon without really having to go down into it. It's kind of the gist of what I read. See those windows up top? That's where that room with the telescopes would be, and we'll go up there. The ones that we just saw, the giant binoculars basically in there. But today it's really still same function, a gift shop, where you can buy t-shirts or whatever, so no shortage of that here. I'm gonna make a beeline up here while there's nobody up here so we can see this together. It's best viewed when you get the place to yourself. But here's where I presume those old binocular telescopes would be. And here's the coin-powered ones that are currently out of order today, but just look at the view. You really get maybe the best view of what they call Havasupai Gardens now, not Indian Garden, down there, and the Bright Angel Trail heading off onto the end of that plateau and beyond, down to the bottom. And I can attest, it takes you down to the river. I've done it. But think of it back then. How many people, even today, do you know that wouldn't want to hike down into the canyon? Most people I talk to think you're crazy when they're like, oh, you hike down it. You don't have to go all the way, right? But a lot of people don't want to do it. And this is the next best thing. And that's really what she was providing people here. If you not want to hike down or take a mule down there, use one of the high-power binoculars and you can take yourself down there virtually, basically. Quite possibly one of the best views of the Altovar Hotel is from this very balcony, I might argue. Way up there. I'm like looking in here to see if they've done much, but it's just I love looking at the stonework now that I know how she was. And that looks pretty old on the inside here. I guess they don't have to treat it like they do on the outside, but anyway. So they also have some lookout points down here that we can go visit, where if you want to get other views of the canyon, it's not hard. There's just a few stairs, but I think a further attempt at her to give people easy access to the canyon that normally might be kind of woozy about it. It is, hiking down those trails is no easy feat. Even if you don't go far, you really got to watch your step, and it can be pretty steep at times. And I just wonder if we could rewind to the 19-teens, 1914, 1915, or whenever this was fully operational, and the first clientele were out here getting those views, how they would have been dressed, what they would have been talking about, the issues of their time. Just would you hear the same family stuff, the children screaming and parents yelling at their kids, all of that. There's probably very common things you'd run into and very uncommon things that would be weird to us today, I bet. And we'll go outside now to the bottom, and these viewpoints, which are spectacular also.
Have you been there? No, for now.
No.
Look at this. See, there's multiple levels to it. I can tell you, if you have a good eye, there have been times I've actually been able to see bighorn sheep straddling the canyon down there. I wouldn't be surprised at the right time of the day if it's a pretty common sight. But here you really get a perspective looking down, and that helps, I think, show the depth and how deep this canyon really is. And that's not even the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You can't even see the bottom from here. I can tell you when you hike and you start to go down, it's like you're in a canyon within a canyon within a canyon. There's like the stair-stepping effect, and sometimes you can't see above the canyon that you're in, and then you'll come up around a bend and you'll look up and you'll be like, oh my God, I have to hike all the way up that. Let's move.
Bajamos aquí y nos regresamos porque ya aquí por algo de tomar.
Mírame, abre los brazos así. Así. No, mirándome.
We'll get one last look of the modern gift shop before we head on out. Maybe we'll go in this front room. Looks more original. Yeah, a lot of nice stonework in here. And as you often find in these buildings, fireplaces. Really cool gifts out of all these places. 1914. Well, folks, I found a break in the walking here. There's no crowds coming from either direction for a few, maybe a minute or two. So I kind of want to get in my final goodbyes with you. So I told you this one would be kind of cash, and it kind of was. But we really got to see, I think, some of Mary's finest works. I'm not gonna have time to go to the Hermit's Rest, unfortunately. That was one of the ones top of my list that I really wanted to see and to talk about now that I learned about some of its features. But that gives me a reason to come back, right? Another time. And you know we will. So anyway, I want to say thanks for watching this one, everybody, and come back next week with another video. We'll see you then.